Today, Earth is covered in buildings and man-made structures. But have you ever wondered how it all came to be? Everything started off in one place. All mass and energy was confined into one spot. And then, all of a sudden, there was a great expansion. Before even a second passed, antimatter went against matter and matter won, which is why there is still matter today. For the first 100 million years, space was completely black. This was known as the Dark Age. But slowly, over time, gravity pulled hydrogen and helium together, forming massive clouds. Eventually, these clouds would grow so dense that they would collapse on themselves, forming the very first stars. These stars would then be pulled together by gravity, creating star clusters. These star clusters would then merge with each other to form the very first galaxies. This is how our home galaxy, the Milky Way, was created. It is home to 100 billion stars. Around 7 billion years ago, the first stars started to decay. These stars began to decay and cave in on themselves because they were running out of fuel to burn. Once the star collapses on itself, a supernova explosion occurs. The explosion causes a very bright light and massive gas and dust clouds to form. In these massive gas and dust clouds, planets and other stars are able to form, which is the exact way our solar system was formed. The birth of our sun was about 5 billion years ago. At this point, the sun belonged to a proto-solar system that had lots of debris and things floating around. About 200 million years after the sun was formed, our home planet Earth was formed. When Earth was first formed, it looked a lot different than it does today. It was extremely hot. Roughly 300 million years after the Earth was formed, it was hit by another planetary mass by the name of Theia. Theia was almost the same size as Mars. This collision caused lots of debris to get pulled into Earth's orbit. The debris would either join Earth or it would eventually become our moon. Over the next couple 100 million years, Earth's surface began to cool down. During this time, Earth was hit by many asteroids containing water. The water from the asteroids eventually formed the oceans on our planet. These new oceans would soon become the starting point for life on Earth. Some 3.7 billion years ago, the first life was introduced to Earth as single-celled organisms. These single-celled organisms would eventually play a huge role in the oxygenation of Earth's atmosphere 2.3 billion years ago. A byproduct of these single-cell life forms was oxygen. This oxygen was released into the atmosphere. This event was extremely important for all life today. Around 1 billion years ago, Earth was in the middle of one of the largest ice ages it had ever experienced. The events following this ice age would change the way life worked going forward. After the ice age ended, multicelled life appeared. Now that organisms were more than just a single cell, we will see much larger changes. About 540 million years ago, the Cambrian explosion happened. The Cambrian explosion was not actually an explosion. Earth was just exploding with life. All major animal groups appeared at this time, according to the fossil records. About 485 million years ago was the beginning of the Ordovician period. During this period, more life was introduced to the oceans. Animals began to move closer to land, and some plants even moved onto land. After another 40 million years began the Silurian period. During this time, coral reefs began to form, and new species of fish were introduced into the oceans. Around 420 million years ago, Earth was in the Devonian period, also known as the Age of the Fish. In this time, fish evolved into bigger organisms, making the oceans much more diverse. About 60 million years after the Devonian period, we reached the Carboniferous period. During this time, trees began to grow on land, and some very large insects also moved onto land. Roughly 237 million years ago was the beginning of the Triassic period. In this time, early dinosaurs appeared and would eventually evolve into the ones that we know and think of today. Between 201 and 66 million years ago was the Jurassic and the Cretaceous periods. During these times, dinosaurs evolved into the cool versions that we know and like today, like the T-Rex and the Triceratops. During this time, bees also evolved, becoming pollinators, which helped greatly in the expansion of plant life. At the end of the Cretaceous period, a massive asteroid hit Earth, eliminating almost 75% of all life on Earth. After this mass extinction, mammals were finally given the chance to grow and evolve, because the giant reptile population had been reduced to almost zero, which made less competition for survival for these new mammals. The rise of the mammals continued all the way up until today, where we see humans as the dominant mammals. We are at the top of the food chain, and we populate almost every bit of Earth. And, as shown here by Mr. T, we like to wear one of the universe's rarest materials on our bodies, just for show.